So hi everyone, yeah, my name's Adrian Ferraro. I'm founder director at Bioasis. We run off-grid adventure retreats and off-sites for businesses and entrepreneurs, whole range of different programs. I come from a background of 20 years in overseas expeditions and adventure travel, and the Bioasis was our pandemic pivot, I suppose, which I've now taken on full time as of about a year ago. And yeah, my relationship with nature, I suppose, goes back a long time. Like I learnt to crawl in a tent in the far north of Scotland, uh, and mum and dad, took me out into the wilds of the UK and elsewhere, growing up, and it's always really been there as somewhere I can escape to and feel that sense of calm and a chance to just consolidate all my thoughts and feelings and get some perspective, I suppose. So it's great, kind of come full circle now that I'm doing that for other people. So yeah, that's me. I'm based in Exeter, work from home most of the time, but try to get out as much as possible. So yeah.
Thanks, Adrian.
Yeah.
So just by way of an introduction to why Adrian's with us today, last year we were lucky enough to head out and go and spend some time at the Bioasis with Adrian and his team, doing various things like clearing invasive rhododendron and litter picking along the river there. A really spectacular place, and it was amazing to hear about the work that you guys are doing. From that we've kept in touch, and it's given us the opportunity for us to do a session and have Adrian speak a little bit and spread the word a little bit further about what the Bioasis is doing. So yes, so I guess over to you, Adrian, and
Yeah.
We'll have a bit of time for questions after.
Sure. Thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity as well. You might have seen this image before. Feels like we're in momentous times, I suppose, and the news is pretty relentlessly not positive at the moment. And from a business perspective, how are we responding to that, and how are we changing and being dynamic and pivoting, so there we go. Right. So I want to start really with a question that, given that uncertainty going forward with global politics, with climate change, with biodiversity loss, sea level rises, all of those sort of challenges that humanity and society are facing, will your business still be relevant in 5 years' time? And if you want it to be relevant in 5 years' time, and you need it to be relevant in 5 years' time, then you're going to need to be agile and resilient and profitable. But how can you actually build those things into your business so that you are still relevant in 5 years' time? And so it's that sort of backdrop that I come at this question of, what can nature do for your business? You personally, your team, and your business as well. There is a lot of evidence out there. I've got some stats later in the presentation, but being surrounded by nature, and it doesn't actually have to be nature out there, although that is a stronger reinforcement of some of this, but being just looking at pictures, being surrounded by nature-based pictures on your wall at home or in your office, looking at nature-based pictures on a screen has a positive impact on all sorts of physiological parameters of stress, well-being, immune system, decreases the likelihood of depression, increases your energy. There's all sorts of really well documented evidence out there of the effect that nature has on us as individuals and our ability to be healthy. And so I suppose the question is, how can we utilize this impact that nature has on us into our everyday living and our business perspectives? And you might have heard that doctors are now prescribing nature or nature-based environments as sort of instead of drugs, and things like forest bathing in Japan is well documented. So there are all these different benefits from nature, and from a business perspective, I come at it from two perspectives, I suppose. One is the human case, and one is the actual hard business case, if you like, and what it can actually do for your business. So I want to start really with the human case and what the impact of that is. The vast majority of our working environments are office-based and not particularly conducive to being connected with nature. And I was looking up some stats this morning. The cost to the UK economy from work-related ill health is now, this was 2023 based figures, just over £21 billion a year. That's through loss of work days due to stress or physical mental ill health, and that's a significant impact on profitability of businesses, the productivity of businesses, and so we need to start thinking, and that's getting worse over the years, by the way. So we need to start, if we're going to start thinking and doing something about that, where do we start? Classic business meeting. Well, what if we took our business meetings outside? And doesn't have to be in an amazingly rich environment like we've got in this picture here, which is actually down in the Bioasis. But what if we were to go for a walkie-talkie around the local park, surrounded by a few trees, or go and sit on a park bench and have our business strategy meeting, having just done a loop of the park and go and sit on the park bench? What impact would that have? The stats out there on improving nature's ability to improve our mental health, improve our physical health, reduce our stress, heal ourselves from physical illness faster. There's studies out there saying, if patients in a hospital, if they have access to a window and a view outside of the window with nature-based nature environment outside of their window, they're actually discharged from hospital more quickly than those that don't. So nature has this incredible ability to improve our health, both mental and physical. And then there's the ideas and innovation side of it, where if you want your teams to have the best ideas and innovation, there's a lot of evidence to say, actually, in an office with post-it notes and whiteboards, that's not the best place to have your ideas and your innovation and solve your problems. Actually, you should be going for a walk. You get there's studies to show that you get significantly improved innovation and ingenuity by going for a walk than you do sitting down. That walk doesn't even have to be in a nature-rich environment, by the way. You could just be walking through a built-up environment, but the actual act of walking improves your inspiration. And then what can nature do for your engagement? So actually, if you're more physically healthy, you've got better mental health, you're flooding your brain with ideas and solutions to some of your business problems, then you're actually more likely to be engaged in your work. If you're doing that as a team, you're more likely to be engaged as a team. Your communication skills are better, your collaboration skills are better. You've maybe got a shared sense of experience together, having maybe had that walk or adventure or an overnight in a nature-rich environment. So bringing all of these different sort of things to the benefits of nature into business seems obvious in my view. So to take one of these, Mind, the UK mental health charity, did a study recently, 24% decrease in cortisol, which is a stress hormone, through spending time outside. For me, this is all about building a business culture. And if you start to interweave nature, positive mental health, collaboration, shared experiences into your team as a business, you're building a positive business culture. And going back to how do you become resilient and such like in, to make sure that your business is still relevant in 5 years' time, if you build a culture within your business that your employees have good mental health, they're physically well, they're encouraged to be innovative and engaged in what you're trying to do, and you as a business are putting these things front and center of your culture and wanting to solve the challenges that are facing society and business generally, you're actually more likely to retain your staff. It attracts and retain better staff, which has a big impact on your bottom line because you're keeping very experienced people and the expertise that they have. You're not having to recruit. I read some stats a couple of months ago about to employ somebody to replace an individual in your organization on average costs about £5,500 and 26 weeks, I think it was, to get them to the same point as the previous employee was. So retaining staff and creating that culture of a shared, dynamic team going forward is really, makes good business sense. This is something that is beginning to become more popular in businesses as well. Running your business in tune with the seasons. Now, it's maybe not feasible for all businesses, but the general idea is that in autumn, obviously we're entering autumn now and deep into autumn. Autumn is a season of harvesting and preparation for the winter, and winter is that time for rest and reflection. Nature does that naturally. We, part of nature, tend to be less active in winter, spend more time inside, more time just kind of reflecting and hibernating almost. And then spring is this time for growth and renewal, with summer being that big burst of action and expansion. And so how can we bring that those cycles of nature into our business to reflect how nature affects us and our ability to, have lots of energy. We can't be expected to go at 100% or 95% year round. And that's just not a sensible undertaking, a sensible reflection of what's feasible. So building nature's automatic, natural cycles into our business can bring that sense of growth and renewal at the times when we have naturally more ability and more energy to undertake that action and expansion. So the business case for spending time in nature, there's a lot of things that nature can help us with and we can learn from in business, whether that's product design, the messaging of how we take our marketing out there, supply chains and efficiencies, what we do with our waste. I've covered team dynamics a little bit already, but leadership as leading organizations, how can we bring that nature into our teams and our actual strategies as a business? I want to focus on a couple of bits of that. One is biomimicry, which I'm sure you will have heard of, but essentially using nature as a template to solve problems, whether that is nature ecosystems and how different parts of an ecosystem interact, which could be replicated into your supply chains or your stakeholder networks, the behavior that nature has and how things react and engage with one another, different structures of form and building actual materials based on nature and how things function and how they can be reutilized and brought to life again in a slightly different format, maybe, and energy and cyclical economies and all those sorts of things. I came across this brilliant website recently, which is, I think it's American Association of Biomimicry, and it's called Ask Nature. And in it, it has dozens and dozens of examples of where industry and innovation has used biomimicry to solve problems. So, for instance, using the wet binding bioadhesives of barnacles and spiders' web glue to actually create glue-based, solutions to problems in wet environments. And there are dozens and dozens of these on the site. Really, encourage you to go and explore it, as well as there's a whole section on how nature and biodiversity, the actual biology of how nature works in these different situations. Carbon sequestering cement inspired by shell formation. So yeah, lots of examples, and you can filter on different industries and all sorts of things. So yeah, a couple more stats on this side of things. I mentioned earlier about innovation, 60% increase in creative output when walking compared to sitting still. Stanford University study. So if we're going to solve some of these problems that we have as business, society, as a team environment, surrounded by cement, straight lines, built office environment is absolutely the wrong place to try and solve some of those problems. We should be out in nature, walking, learning from nature, and just being inspired by its surroundings. And those companies that embrace that, I think, will be much more innovative, much more resilient, and able to thrive in an environment that is changing rapidly. Spending time in nature makes you 350% more likely to protect it. That was some research recently through the Journal of Environmental Psychology, sorry. So if we are wanting to protect it, and you are a business that wants to be part of that solution to protecting nature, then go and spend some time outside, because actually you're going to be, if you take your team outside as well, you're going to be inspiring them to take those actions and make more of an impact. And then I think there's just the sense that, I was describing this to somebody recently, sometimes in a busy work, when you've got emails coming in and you've got to-do lists and tasks and things are coming at you, I don't know if you're anything like me. My to-do list gets longer before, far longer before it gets shorter, and nature just gives us that time to pause and actually reflect and think what is important here, and ability to just sort out perspectives and yeah, what's important. So these are some quotes that from some business leaders that we had down at the Bioasis after doing a morning-based forest meditation. And this was a group of entrepreneurs who run some of the UK's fastest growing businesses, who are very growth mindset and pro growth in business and all sorts of things. And after 15 minutes of meditation in the woodlands, these were some of the things they said. And it completely blew me away, in that there is wisdom in wanting less. And for me, it was quite profound, really, that people who are, you know, aspirational, big entrepreneurs who have got big, ambitious plans for growth in their businesses. You take them to a nature-rich environment, and it just gives a different slant. So, what's the outcome of all of that? You know, if we are a business that takes all of that seriously, well, we're coming up with more innovative solutions. We're bringing our teams together. We're collaborating more. We're more productive because we've got better mental health and better physical health, and all of that is positively affecting our bottom line and making us more profitable. So, I think, judging from the conversations I had recently at Blue Earth Summit, a lot of people and a lot of businesses are starting to realize the possibility of what nature can do for us and our businesses, which is really exciting, because we've got a long way to go if we're going to solve some of these problems. Just want to finish, sorry to ruin your lunchtime and show you a picture of Donald Trump and Farage. I wanted to just finish actually with, you know, this whole pushback on the climate crisis that's happening at the moment, and, you know, the perceived renege on CSR and ESG policies amongst big organizations. You may have heard of greenwashing, which is where a company you know, kind of says they're doing something very sustainability related, but actually it's not really having a big impact, or it's not really, you know, they're not really following it up with what they're actually doing on the ground. There's a new phenomenon starting called green hushing, and this is where organizations are worried what the pushback they're going to get if they actually say what they are doing. So they're not talking about the policies that they are implementing about CSR or ESG, or, you know, reducing carbon, etc. They've gone a little bit quiet because they're worried about the impact of you know, what's going to come back at them. But actually, 90% of business leaders and employees agree that integrating sustainability in business strategy enhances a company's resilience. 73% of global consumers are willing to adjust their consumption habits to minimize their environmental impact. There was a recent study by Anthesis. Companies with a strong environmental performance see a 6% higher EBITDA than their peers. 31% of reputational advantage held by market leaders comes down to how they are perceived on environmental issues. Now, not actually what they are doing, but actually how they are perceived. So, and with the other stat at the bottom there saying 79% of companies are ineffective when it comes to communicating their environmental performance, there's a big gap here that actually those companies and organizations that are really nailing their communication of what they are doing, that's a huge opportunity for them. There were two other, so let's go back one. There were two other studies recently by PwC and Morgan Stanley that, although some of the big organizations around the world, and I think that was the PwC one that had 4,000 companies under its study, compared with their commitments a while ago, far more people are continuing with their commitments that they made, or even making more ambitious commitments to the planet and environment than they are reneging on. And so companies may not be shouting about it because the fear of that you know, pushback, if you like, but are they actually not doing things, and are they reneging on that? Absolutely not. Vast majority of companies see a really strong business case for putting nature and environmental stuff at the front and center of their policies. And that's really encouraging. So, and really that's what we try and do at the Bioasis, I suppose, is to give businesses, entrepreneurs, CSR professionals, we've got a number of different programs, the time and space to think differently, and that opportunity to step back away from business and emails and the built environment and to give people that perspective and get a different view of where they can take their business to in the future. So that's all I was going to say, really. Thank you for the opportunity. Very happy to take questions and partake in a discussion going forward.